Hi students, in this video we are going to see the chronology of our Indian history. Along with Indian history, we also see the important developments that took place in modern world history as well. This chronological video will help you to understand and connect different developments in ancient, medieval, modern Indian history. So this becomes very handy for you while studying entire Indian history and world history as well. With the help of map also, we will try to connect different issues in a chronological way in this video. We use world map also wherever it is necessary. Now we will start. In our history, our ancient Indian history starts with Stone Age. So let us start with the beginning of our history is from Stone Age. So we call first one as Stone Age because history is about studying about human evolution and human progress in various dimensions like socio-economic, political and cultural development or dimensions. Initially, human beings were not in a position to develop agriculture or social system or culture because initially the nature was very harsh. So their main focus was on just to live according to the nature. That time, even the temperatures were very low because it was also called Pleistocene era. Pleistocene era means Ice Age. Gradually, the temperatures increased and warmer climate came after some time. We are seeing all these things in the part of Stone Age itself. Then, gradually, human beings learned how to domesticate animals and later how to practice agriculture. That means initially they were focusing or initially they were depending on hunting and gathering for the food, but after some time they started producing their own grains and now agriculture became an important profession or subsistence base for the human beings. So all these developments we see in Stone Age. If we take this one, Stone Age, we have in different parts because we do not have any written records for this particular age. We had to depend on only on archaeological evidences. That's why we got some archaeological evidences from different parts of the Indian subcontinent, some from here, some from here, some in medieval in Central Asia, Central Indian part, in South India, in Bihar, Gujarat. So across the subcontinent, we got some evidences of human life in Stone Age. So all these different areas were part of Stone Age. What is the generally agreed timeline for the Stone Age? Let us see. In our Indian context, Stone Age covers from 20 lakh years ago onwards till 10,000 or 1000 BC. BC. So from 20 lakh years ago onwards till 1000 BC is considered as Stone Age in our Indian context. Now once again, in this the life was also changed from one phase to the other phase. Initially, this initial Stone Age was called Paleolithic Age. The next one was called Mesolithic Age. Mesolithic means it is a transition from Paleolithic to the Neolithic Age. So in this video, let us strictly focus on the broader issues. Otherwise, if we go deeper, we cannot cover entire chronology. So here we are restricting only to Paleolithic Age, Mesolithic Age and Neolithic age. So within Stone Age we have three categories within the Stone Age. So Paleolithic age means people were purely depending on hunting and gathering. In Neolithic age, people started practicing agriculture. Mesolithic is transition from hunting, gathering, subsistence base to the agriculture base. So here just focus on this particular aspect only. Then after 1000 BC, we have historic phase, or to be specific, from 1500 BC onwards we have historic phase. Let us see here. Our history also based on the archaeological evidences and written records, it can be divided further into three parts. One is prehistory. Prehistory means no written records. Historic age means we can learn history from written records. That is called historic age. This we have written records available. The part of history which we do not have any written records, that is called prehistory. But a specific or peculiar development took place in the Indian subcontinent after the discovery of Indus Valley civilization. During the British Raj, a new civilization called Indus Valley civilization or Harappan civilization, it was discovered, and the timeline for this Harappan civilization was considered as from 2500 BC to 1750. It is called mature because it is urban areas. This urban area initially evolved from rural areas, and after some time these urban areas once again transformed into rural areas. So gradual evolution of urban phase and gradual declining of urban. Here the urban phase is called mature Harappan. That we are calling it as from the time period 2500 BC to 1750 BC. Now you see, here on one hand we are saying till 1000 BC as Stone Age, whereas in 2500 BC itself some part of the country has seen urban areas. So this is the paradox in Indian subcontinent, because India is a very large country. All the areas did not progress at a time. That means we cannot rigidly say that 2500 BC all the other areas were also having urban development. No, in 2500 BC urban areas were specifically located here, whereas in this case if we take, still Neolithic settlements are going on, still they are in Stone Age. That's why in different parts of the country different timeline comes. That's why we have to remember this geographic aspect also. India is a very large country. Whatever we are studying in history, always remember the regional changes or regional specific development. That is why Stone Age is up to 1000 BC. But once again, within this line 2500 BC to 1750 BC, we are calling it as Indus Valley Civilization Age. But after 1500 BC, we are calling it as Vedic period. Vedic period. Around 1500 BC, some nomadic people entered the Indian subcontinent from Central Asia. From Iran, one branch, from Central Asia, one branch, and both joined together and entered the Indian subcontinent. This around 1500 BC. Before 1500 BC also some kind of gradual migration was going on. But we are considering around 1500 BC as early Vedic period. Because the people who came around 1500 BC, we are calling them as Vedic people because we know the life of these people from a text called Rig Veda. That's why Rig Veda is the source of these people. That means a written record. That's why from 1500 BC onwards, we are calling it as historic age. So in our Indian context, 1500 BC onwards, historic age. On northwestern part of India, historic age started, whereas here if we take around 1000 BC, still people are living in the Stone Age. That's why this difference comes. Now come here. Let us take from around 1500 BC to 500 BC. It is called Vedic age, Vedic period. So clear? From 1500 BC to 500 BC means 1000 years. We are calling it as Vedic period. Once again, in the Vedic age, I am erasing this. After some time, these early Vedic people shifted gradually to the Gangetic plain. This development took place from 1000 BC to 500 BC. During this time period, the people whoever migrated from Central Asia entered into the Gangetic plain. These people we are calling it as later Vedic people or later Vedic age. This time period 1000 to 500 is called later Vedic period. Before 1000 BC we are calling it as early Vedic period. Now up to 500 within Vedic period we have early Vedic period and Vedic period. So up to this point only we get some kind of confusion. Then after 500 BC we will not have any confusion. It is straightforward. Here we have seen one is prehistory, another one is historic age. In between we have a segment called proto-history in our Indian context. This is Indus Valley civilization because all of a sudden if there is no Indus Valley civilization in India, we would be having only prehistory, then historic age. Stone Age, after that written records came, then history. Because of this specific development, we had to categorize one more category, proto-history, that is Indus Valley civilization. What does proto-history means? Historic age means written records should be there. Whereas in Indus Valley civilization, we have written records in the form of script, but still we are not able to decipher it. Even though it is available, we are not able to understand it. That's why we categorized Indus Valley period as proto-history. So prehistory, proto-history and historic period. In the Indian context, we get these three. One is Stone Age, second one is Indus Valley civilization, third one from Vedic age onwards. So for up to 500 BC, this much clarification is required because there different confusions emerge when Indus Valley civilization, when Neolithic age and Vedic periods merge together. Now I am erasing this part. Now after 500 BC, once again gradual development. We cannot say in our history that one development suddenly stopped and a new development emerged suddenly. It won't happen in any human civilization. So it will be a gradual process. Now from Vedic age to the new age started around 600 BC. So from 600 BC onwards, we are calling it as Mahajanapada period. Around 6th, 5th century BC, Mahajanapada period started. What is the development during Mahajanapada period? Now by this time period, Vedic people came, the people who called themselves as Aryans. They entered in this part also. Now gradually they have created different kinds of political systems. Some part in different parts of the country, different political systems emerged. Even in the Deccan region also one Mahajanapada came. Mahajanapada means, Maha means great, Janapada means kingdom. Now you see the evolution from Stone Age. In Stone Age, people started their life as hunters. Now the people evolved and they are able to create their own kingdoms and states. Now you see the evolution in the Indian context. So from hunting, gathering communities to the state, formation of state. This continued for some time, and after some time these great kingdoms once again they followed expansionary policies against the other. Initially tribal polities were there, small tribal kingdoms. Now these Mahajanapadas tried to capture all the tribal kingdoms and formed as Mahajanapada. Now within Mahajanapadas, these started fighting against each other. Now these kingdoms gave way to the empire. In our Indian history, the first empire is Magadhan Empire. Magadhan Empire that emerged in the present day Bihar and eastern UP regions and Bengal region as well. So this was the Magadhan Empire, the first empire in our Indian history. And gradually this Magadhan Empire expanded into different areas. By the time a dynasty called Mauryas, almost entire subcontinent came under one central authority. This is called Mauryan Empire. So around in the 3rd century BC, in 3rd century BC, that means around 300 BC, we are calling till 185 BC, we call it as Mauryan Empire. Mauryan Empire, starting with Chandragupta Maurya, then Bindusara, then Ashoka, then after that other successors of Ashoka. After 185 BC, a new dynasty emerged, that is Shunga dynasty. I am erasing this. Shungas. Now once again, after 185 BC, this large kingdom gradually disintegrated into different kingdoms. In northwest some new kingdoms emerged. Now here some other, and in Deccan also some other kingdoms emerged. Now you see the reversal of the development. Initially small kingdoms were there. They expanded into Mahajanapadas. Now Mahajanapadas turned into large empire. Now when there was weak central administration, this entire empire once again disintegrated into different kingdoms. Now around this time period 185, here Shungas were there, here Satavahanas, here Indo-Greeks. How Indo-Greeks emerged? Because when Alexander the Great expanded his empire till northwestern borders, Greeks settled here. They established the kingdom. It is one of the reasons for declining of Magadhan Empire or Mauryan Empire as well. Around the same time, from Central Asia also, some tribes like Shakas, Kushanas, they also entered into the Indian subcontinent, and they have created their own kingdoms in different parts of the country. For example, Kushanas in Peshawar region and Kashmir region, they expanded into different areas. They have created one of the large empires in India. Shakas mainly settled in western region, present day Gujarat, Malwa, some Rajasthan areas, and below it Satavahanas were ruling. So now it is called, all these developments were taking place, that we are calling it as post Mauryan period. So before this period there was a large empire. Now after the decline, different kingdoms emerged. We are combinedly calling it as post Mauryan period. Now what is the post Mauryan period we are saying? From 2nd century BC to, we say, 3rd century AD. This is called post Mauryan period. So now you will see this kind of development once again. So first initially small kingdoms, then small kingdoms were captured by a large kingdom and it emerged as empire. Once again this empire declines, now new kingdoms emerge. This is repetition our entire Indian history. You can see before Maurya small kingdoms were there, now Mauryan empire emerged. After that different kingdoms emerged. Once again these kingdoms were once again captured by a new dynasty called Gupta dynasty. That's why we are calling it as Gupta period. So Gupta period till around 6th century AD. Then once again Gupta empire declined, new kingdoms emerged in the form of Harshavardhana. In North India, Harshavardhana. In Deccan, we see Chalukyas. Then in South, Pallavas. Different kingdoms emerged. In here, a different kind of dynasty called Maitrakas emerged. So we are calling this as post-Gupta period. Post-Gupta period, we are taking this post-Gupta period till 750 AD. So till 750 AD, after Guptas, after the decline of Guptas till 750 AD, we call it as post-Gupta period. Post-Gupta period. So now if it is clear till this point of time, this entire section we are calling it as ancient Indian history. Now from 750 AD onwards, we are categorizing our Indian history as early medieval history. Once again, any age cannot transform suddenly from one development to the other development. Always there is transition period. That's why after 750 till around 1206 or 1200 AD, we are calling it as early medieval period. What is the characteristic of early medieval period? Once again, so many dynasties. After Harshavardhana, Chalukyas and Pallavas, new kingdoms emerged like Rashtrakutas, Gurjara Pratiharas, Palas. In different parts, small kingdoms emerged. All these were developments from 1750 to 1200 AD. We are calling it as early medieval period because after 1206 or 1200 AD, we are calling the Indian history as medieval period. So during this early medieval period, one of the significant development or special characteristic of Indian history is the rise of feudalism. Feudalism means so small jamindars and small landlords also acted as political force. Here Rajputs. So it was the age of Rajputs. They captured different areas from 750 to 1200 AD. When Delhi Sultanate, after 1200, we see a new kind of establishment, that is Delhi Sultanate period. After 1206, we are taking till 1526. It is called Delhi Sultanate period. Delhi Sultanate period. What happened in this? Once again, we got like Alexander, Indo-Greeks, Shakas, Kushanas, Parthians. Like we have seen after the Mauryan Empire, different tribes entered into the Indian subcontinent. Similarly, around 1000 BC, 1000 AD, a new ruler from present day Afghanistan called Muhammad Ghazni. He started attacking the Indian subcontinent, and his main focus was to loot the wealth, take the wealth to his kingdom and enrich his kingdom. Because of the political disunity, because there is no centralized administration, all small kingdoms, Muhammad Ghazni felt very easy to go and loot these kingdoms. So he did very successfully. According to one tradition, it is 17 times he came and he looted and he went back. So you can see, even though he was raiding regularly, he was not able to, the local rulers were not able to stop his adventures. Because of these raids, once again, Central Asian tribes called Turks. They came from Central Asia and they gradually entered into the Indian subcontinent. And these people established a new political authority that we are calling it as Delhi Sultanate period. Once again, Delhi Sultanate means it is like Magadhan Empire. In Magadhan Empire, different dynasties ruled. For example, Haryanka dynasty, Shishunaga dynasty, Nanda dynasty, after that Mauryan dynasty. Likewise, in Delhi Sultanate also, different small or different dynasties ruled for certain period. Initially, slave dynasty. Why it is called slave dynasty? Initially, these Turks in these kingdoms acted as slaves. Turks from Central Asia, they came towards the present day West Asian part. Let us take the map. Here you will see, from this location Turks came. When they were gradually migrating in search of employment, already some kingdoms were there here in this location. Now these kingdoms took Turks as slaves. Now whenever these kingdoms trying to attack in other parts of the world, they employed these slaves as soldiers. These soldiers were very efficient. Now in the Indian context, these slave officers or slave soldiers established a kingdom called Delhi Sultanate. Initially, the dynasty called slave dynasty. That is how initially slave dynasty, later Khilji dynasty, then Tughlaq dynasty, then Sayyid dynasty, finally Lodi dynasty ruled before the emergence of Mughals. Now you can see, this is early medieval period, age of feudalism. Now once again it has gone. Delhi Sultanate emerged. Gradually this Delhi Sultanate became very powerful and created a large empire. By the time Muhammad bin Tughlaq and Firoz Shah Tughlaq, by the time Muhammad bin Tughlaq, this became very big. But during Muhammad bin Tughlaq itself, central administration became very weak, and gradually new kind of kingdoms emerged once again. Like after Mauryas, new kingdoms, after Delhi Sultanate, new kingdoms. That's why around this time period, we see two important kingdoms. One is Bahmani Sultanate. This kingdom is also called Sultanate. Bahmani Sultanate. Another one is Vijayanagara Empire. So during this time period, from 1206 to 1526 itself, new dynasties within Indian subcontinent emerged: Bahmani Sultanate and Vijayanagara kingdoms. So they continued for some time. Once again, as long as Bahmani Sultanate central administration was strong, they could capture a large area. But after some time, Bahmani Sultanate also weakened. They once again split into five different sultanates. They are called Ahmadnagar, Bijapur, Berar, Bidar. So likewise, five different sultanate emerged out of Bahmani Sultanate, whereas Vijayanagara Empire expanded into different areas. So that is how whenever central administration is weak, new kingdoms emerged. Whenever central administration was strong, this administration tried to capture so many lands and tried to build a pan-Indian empire. This once again happened after Akbar. During Akbar time itself, he established a large empire. In 1526, Babur came. Once again, Babur came from which area? From this location. Now you can see the repeat of history. Indo-Greeks, Shakas, Kushanas once. Then in the form of Turks second time. Now in the form of Mughals, now third time. This is another kind of development. So if we do not learn lessons from history, history gets repeated according to one scholar, one Spanish scholar. Same thing is happening in the Indian context. Mughals, now initially Babur, then Humayun for some time, then Akbar. He enlarged his empire into many dimensions. Akbar, he tried to create a large empire. Then after him, his successors Jahangir, Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb. By the time Aurangzeb came, he almost made a pan-Indian empire. So by the time 1707, when Aurangzeb died, most of the Indian subcontinent came under one administration, that is Mughals. So like Mauryans, during the time period of Mauryans, a large empire was seen. Guptas also did not create this much empire, but however, they have considerably unified large parts of the country. During Mughal time period, most of the subcontinent came under Mughals. So this we are calling from 1526 to 1707. It is a landmark year. This is the year Aurangzeb died. We are calling it as Mughal period. After Aurangzeb, so many successors came, but they were not strong. So naturally, what is going to happen? Once again, disintegrated into different. Now, Mughal Empire restricted to Delhi. Here, Jaunpur Kingdom, Bengal. Then during this time period, Marathas emerged as a powerful local kingdom, regional kingdom, and gradually they tried to expand into different directions. Now in this location, Hyderabad. In this location, Mysore. Then here, Carnatic. After 1707, once again, entire polity divided into different parts. Now these areas were captured by Afghans. So now you see, now a peculiar development took place in the Indian politics in 18th century. So far we have seen our history that invasions entered from northwestern part of India. Now whoever comes from northwestern part of India, if the authority here is weak, means gradually they enter into Indian subcontinent and gradually they are trying to build very large empires. After 18th century, a new kind of development took place in the Indian subcontinent. This time, invaders did not come from land, they came from oceans. During Mughal time period itself, I am erasing this. Now we are entering into the modern Indian part. So far, we are calling it as from Delhi Sultanate period to Mughal period, we are calling it as medieval India. So now we have seen three parts. One is ancient India, second one medieval India, in between we have early medieval India. So ancient Indian history, we have seen the chronology. Medieval Indian history also we have seen chronology. In between we have seen early medieval period as well. Now we are entering into the modern Indian history. Now what happened? During Mughal time period itself, during Jahangir time period itself, a company called East India Company established a factory at Surat. This is called East India Company. Now East India Company, I am erasing this also. East India Company was created in London in 1600. In 1600 AD, it was created, and now they gradually came to India and established a factory at Surat. Now they established other factory in Machilipatnam. Likewise, in different parts of the country, they established factories. Because it is a company, the purpose is to trade with Eastern world. That's why it is called East India Company. That's why it is called East India Company. Before entering into modern India, let us take what is happening at the old level. Now here we are talking about 1600, but before 1600 itself, some major developments took place in the world history. In 1492, some sailors reached this part of the world. We are calling him as Columbus. He discovered this part of the world, and later it emerged as American colonies. American colonies. Why they are calling colonies? Because Europeans, they entered and settled in different parts. Initially they settled in coastal areas. Here Spanish people initially, then different people like French, English, Portuguese, likewise different people from European countries, they entered, explored into different areas. Till this point of time, only known world is Asia, Africa, and even this was not known. So only known area is this one. Due to religious beliefs, whoever crossed the ocean, they will not return because nothing was there outside the ocean. So that was the kind of belief. This kind of belief was restricting the people's traveling, and also due to lack of technology also, people could not cross the oceans. By 13th and 14th centuries, technology also helped people to travel for long periods, long oceans, and they reached this part of the world. This took place in 1492. This is Columbus discovered American. Now at the same time in 1498, a Portuguese traveled across Africa and he reached India. This took place in 1498. The person who reached here was Vasco da Gama. The present day Kerala was the place where he set his foot. That landmark development took place in 1498. Now come to our Indian land. Now Vasco da Gama came here. Now he belongs to Portugal. Now Portugal, so many Portuguese people entered. Because after setting his foot here, then he went back and he took a lot of spices and he traded in European markets and he became very wealthy person. So naturally it triggered other people also to reach India. Now many Portuguese entered. Now these Portuguese established a empire also by controlling the ocean. They captured different parts. Mainly coastal areas only. Coastal areas, Goa became their capital. When these developments were going on in 1500s. Around this time period, who were there in this location? Vijayanagara kingdom and Bijapur. Bahmani Sultanate disintegrated by this time period. Different 5 kingdoms emerged out of Bahmani Sultanate. So Golconda, Bijapur, Bidar, Berar, Ahmednagar. Around this time period, who were here? Lodi dynasty. So here Lodi dynasty, when Lodi dynasty, Vijayanagara and Deccan Sultanates were ruling, Portuguese set their foot and they created a empire, Oceanic Empire. Now this triggered other countries as well. These people were Portuguese. Now other colonies, other people like Dutch. Now I am erasing this. Now Portuguese entered and established their authority in Indian subcontinent. Now some Dutch people, Danish people, English people, French people, they also took interest and all these people entered Indian waters. Now these Dutch people, they entered after Portuguese Dutch entered. These Dutch people captured some of these areas. This is today we are calling it as Indonesia. They called them as Spice Islands because spices were majorly traded products at that time period. So Dutch people, they captured this. Now English also came. Portuguese were already there. Initially, now later after some time, French also became one of the contenders in this rivalry. Gradually, of these, initially they were fighting amongst each other. Initially Portuguese and Dutch people fought, then English and Dutch people fought, French and English also fought. Finally English became winner in our Indian subcontinent. All these people were trying to expand their territories in the form of settlements. That time they were called as factories. So English factories, Dutch factories, French factories, Portuguese factories. They fought amongst themselves. Finally, British became winner. A landmark year was 1757 and 1764. Here in Bengal, like we have seen, after the death of Aurangzeb, different kingdoms emerged. One of them was Bengal Sultanate or Bengal Kingdom. Here, Nizam Kingdom, Carnatic Kingdom, Mysore Kingdom, Marathas, likewise different kingdoms emerged by this time period. Now, along with Indian powers, English also became one of the contenders for the Indian subcontinent political system. So this we are calling as beginning of modern India. So modern India starts after the Mughal Empire 1707. Gradually we are calling it as decline of Mughal Empire. Decline of Mughal Empire. After the decline of Mughal Empire by 1764, now English became the major powers. English, now these people, small kingdoms were controlled, captured. Finally, British emerged as the winner and they became British. Now Indian subcontinent became a part of British Empire. Now British Empire, by this time period, India is under English. This is English. And American colonies were also under English. Now these areas were also under English. And in African countries also, coastal areas, English settlements. Now you can see they are creating a very large empire ever known to the history. They have proved that in order to create an empire, you need not to have a geographic continuity. That means now you see London is located in one place, but their empire expanded into different locations. North India, Indian subcontinent and of Australia. So now this is one of the largest empires ever known to the human history. That's why one of the scholars mentioned that they built an empire on which sun never sets. Sun never sets. That means at any point of time, sun is visible in the eastern frontier or the western frontier, always sun is visible on their empire. So always sun shines on their empire. That's why sun never sets. So such kind of development took place by 18th, 19th centuries. Now come to our Indian subcontinent. Now we became a colony of British Empire. Now we are entering into the modern period. After 1707, decline of Mughal Empire, now we are calling it as modern India. Now modern India. Now we take separate sheet. Here we are starting with modern India. 1707. Once again, we should not always segregate a particular age with one particular year. Always transition period will be there. All of a sudden, medieval India will not stop and modern India will start. So always transition period. Now we are taking 1707 as the reference period, then modern India started. Now up to 1857. 1857 became a landmark year in our Indian history. What happened in 1857? Now, as the British were expanding into different parts of the country, now Indians were exploited. Now they're economically exploited, culturally degraded, politically now they are out of the power. A new European power emerged as the major political power. Now in 1857, all these developments created resentment in the soldiers. Now these soldiers rebelled against the British Empire. That was the 1857 revolt. So we take 1857 revolt as the major event. Now before that, what kind of segments we have to see in our modern Indian history? One is advent of Europeans. One chapter comes advent of Europeans. Advent of Europeans means how different European powers entered into Indian subcontinent. Later, after advent of Europeans, British conquest. How the British conquered different parts of the country. Then after conquering, they created different economic policies, or we say British policies. Advent of Europeans, then conquest. After the conquest, they created various policies. British policies, administrative policies, economic policies, socio-cultural policies, and gradually this created resentment, led to a great revolt that is called 1857 revolt. So in between, before 1857, some tribals also revolted, peasants also revolted. Now you see the difference. Now we are entering into a different kind of political power struggle. That means before this point of time, one kingdom fight with another kingdom. Now one kingdom fight with another kingdom, they try to expand. Really the people are not at all interested in the expansion of their base. So people do not have that kind of awareness or consciousness that this entire subcontinent belonged to India. Whereas in 1857, for the first time now, people started fighting against the rulers. Generally, neighboring ruler fight against the ruler. Now in this case, people themselves are fighting against the rulers. This is a new kind of development in our modern Indian history. The foundations for such kind of developments laid in 1789 in the form of French Revolution. French Revolution. Now 1789 means British Empire is gradually expanding into the Indian subcontinent. Now French Revolution, they have people, common people have overthrown the king. That became a very great revolution in our history, world history, that is French Revolution. The ideals of French Revolution spread in different parts of the country. So likewise, in 1857, people themselves started questioning the rulers and started fighting against the rulers. Now, 1857 revolt was completely crushed by the British. Now, Indian people educated by this time period through their policies, education policy also came. Through this education policy, a new kind of educated sections of people emerged. These people were observing what were the developments in the old context. Now we'll see. We are talking about after 1857. After 1857 means before 1857 mean itself. Here in 1789, French Revolution took place. Now these ideas, equality, liberty, fraternity, they spread into different parts of the world. So through educated section, it reached Indian subcontinent as well. One development before French Revolution, this one. In 1770s and in 1780s, previously we have seen this was part of English colony. Now during this time period, these colonies declared themselves as independent. In our world history, we are calling this period as American independence, American War of Independence. So this American War of Independence, now they created a democratic society, a constitutional society. Now no authoritative or arbitrary power. Democratic constitution. Constitution was the basis of governance. Now these kind of ideas we are calling them as modern ideas. That's why 18th century period onwards we are calling it as modern period. In our Indian subcontinent also we are calling it as modern Indian history. In world history also we call it as modern world history. So now in 1770s and 80s, American War of Independence became independent from English only. Now people within India also started gradually for such kind of arrangement. Now people wanted more participation in the governance. Local people wanted more participation in the governance because British were only giving very lower posts as servants of the British Empire, but the higher offices were under Europeans. Through this kind of administrative mechanism, British were controlling the Indian subcontinent. So naturally, in 1857, a great revolt took place. After 1857 revolt, educated Indians felt that violence is not the answer. This is the violence. Violence is not the answer. Only peaceful means only can are helpful in the new modern context. In 1885, a new organization called Indian National Congress came. After emergence of Indian National Congress, gradually they were pushing for the new reforms. Already you can see the tribal revolts, peasant revolts and Sepoy revolt. The causes for these revolts are the exploitation, economic exploitation, administrative, keeping Indians away from the main administrative offices, socio-cultural reforms, likewise interference in the Indian way of life. Now these people, whoever taking reforms as the major agenda, wanted to push this agenda peacefully. They were called moderates. From 1885 to 1905, it was called moderate phase. These people were so in backwards, we are calling them as freedom fighters. After 1885 to 1905, we are calling it as moderate phase. Then up to 1980, extremist phase. Both wanted reforms from the British authorities, whereas moderates wants reforms through constitutional methods. Whereas extremist leaders, they wanted reforms in any way, so they can use unconstitutional means also to gain the reforms. Here, for the first time, in the words of Balagangadhar Tilak, Swaraj, the concept of Swaraj emerged. Balagangadhar Tilak said, Swaraj is my birthright, I shall have it. Now you can see gradually British conquered Indian subcontinent, exploited economically, administratively, politically in all the angles. A new kind of revolution or a new kind of opposition for the British policies emerged in the form of educated middle class. Initially moderate phase, then extremist phase. After 1918 onwards, we see Gandhian phase. Gandhi, a leader called Mahatma Gandhi, we are calling him as Mahatma Gandhi. His original name is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. He provided leadership. He strongly believed in non-violence. And he led the Indian freedom struggle through peaceful, non-violent ways. Finally, in 1947, we got the independence. So this we are calling it as freedom struggle phase, Gandhian phase. Before that, extremist phase, then moderates phase. So this is Gandhian phase. Once again, after 19, so many developments took place. All these we considered as part of Gandhian phase. After 1947 onwards, we are calling it as post-independence era. So after 1947, nation building started. Because in 1707, after 1707, what was the condition of India? Am I raising this? After 1707, so many small kingdoms emerged. Now British came and in direct means or indirect means, they captured entire Indian subcontinent under their control. Now in 1947, India inherited this unified land, except some parts of the Indian subcontinent were split into two countries. So one is Pakistan, another one is India. So later in 1971, this part of Pakistan, earlier it was called West Pakistan. This one is West Pakistan. This one was called East Pakistan in 1947. In 1971, this East Pakistan split from the Pakistan country. It became Bangladesh. Whereas the remaining parts of India became Indian Republic. Indian Republic, now we got Constitution. The influence of Constitution, as we have seen in the world history, American colonies, after becoming independent from British colonies, they created their own constitution. That was Democratic Republic Constitution. Similarly, after French Revolution, so many countries have adopted different constitutions. In 1947, from 1946 onwards till 1950, a constituent assembly was formed in India. The purpose of this assembly is to study different constitutions across the globe, and they created a constitution which is useful for the Indian subcontinent. So entire India is now have a constitution. Now India is declared as a republic country, a democratic country, and a sovereign country. Sovereign country means we are not a colony. We are no more a colony, we are independent and we take our own decisions. So this is what the independence in 1947 and constitution. Through this constitution order, we are ruling after 1947, or to be specific 1950 onwards. On January 26, 1950 onwards, we are using this constitution. That's why January 26 is also called Republic Day. August 15th is the Independence Day, because on August 15th India became an independent country. That's why August 15th is celebrated as Independent Day. Whereas on January 26, 1950, we became a republic. That means we are no more having kings. India is the land of kings earlier. Now no more kings. The head of the state, the first person of the state is not the king. He is a normal public, a person from common public. That's why we are calling it as republic. Why republic? This common public is not also elected for lifetime. After 5 years, this common public is once again replaced with another person. So from the public only. That's why republic. So India became republic after 1950 onwards. So all these were part of modern India after 1947 onwards, post independence. This is about ancient Indian history, medieval Indian history, modern Indian history. Now let us take a small brief about old history as well. Already we have discussed for some issues. In 1770s onwards we see old history. In this, we call initially Enlightenment phase. Enlightenment phase means, I am erasing this, in 14th and 15th centuries. Before that period, religion was dominating the public affairs. It is controlling the society, it is controlling the politics, it is controlling everything, and it was not allowing the scientific, it was not allowing the freedom of thinking. Later in 15th and 16th century, some rebels started thinking rationally. That means whatever the religion is teaching now being questioned. Now some of the people started questioning the existing norms. This kind of development took place even in Indian subcontinent as well, in the form of socio-religious reforms. Indian society was also having similar kind of situation. Socio-religious reformers questioned the existing unnecessary practices of the society. They wanted a modern order. Raja Ram Mohan Rai, for example, he was called as the first modern man of India because he was the one who started questioning the existing dogmatic practices. Similar kind of development already took place in 15th and 16th centuries in Europe. This phase is called Enlightenment phase. Because of this Enlightenment, now American colonies, they took these ideals and they became independent. After independence, they followed these Enlightenment ideas like constitution, republic, democratic. So it is not, they built a society which is not based on privileges. Privileges by birth. In India also, Indian society was divided into 4 varnas: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas and Shudras. This means by birth some sections of people were having privileges, by birth some were not enjoying these privileges. Enlightenment questioned this by birth, why a person should be given privileges. All men are free. All men are free. So this kind of ideas propagated for the first time. American colonies, after becoming independent, they adopted a constitution. They followed the Enlightenment principles in their governance. They followed liberty, equality. Now, after this, some of the French soldiers were also there while fighting against the British. Now, they brought these ideas into France. And also within French society, these kind of Enlightenment ideas were already churning the society. Gradually, it led to 1789 French revolt. So, French Revolution took place in 1789. After 1789, the French society was completely altered. Before 1789, one kind of society was there. It was based on privileges. After 1789, the new political order completely abolished these privileges. They followed the policy of all men are born equal. So this is French Revolution. Now American Revolution. Enlightenment phase. After Enlightenment, American War of Independence. Then French Revolution. After this, I am erasing this. After French Revolution, now different parts of Europe also adopted these ideals. It has really destroyed the old order. So whatever order it was there, it was called old order. Now the French Revolution really, more than American War of Independence, this French Revolution really affected every part of Europe. That's why a new kind of revolutions in different parts of the country emerged. They are called European revolutions. As part of these European revolution, initially some nation state, the concept of nation state also emerged. Some countries like Italy and Germany got unified. Previously, Italy was under different rulers, different small kingdoms, like the case of India, small principalities everywhere. Now, because of the European Revolution, in Italy became a unified country. Germany also became a unified country. That's why we have to see Italian unification and Germany unification. So in our world history, we get Enlightenment phase, American War of Independence, French Revolution, European revolutions. As part of it, Italian unification and German unification. After the unification of Italy and Germany, a new kind of social order or political order emerged. The balance of power. The balance of power has changed completely. Who were the major power center before this? England and French people. They were enjoying, French state and English state, enjoying more power. With the emergence of Germany, now this balance of power disturbed. This side, Russia was also part of another power center, whereas while Europe was undergoing with modern ideas, Russian people were still in the medieval ages. That's why we are calling the old order is also medieval order. New order with modern enlightened ideas, we are calling it as modern order. Now gradually Russian society also changed, but it was not changed all of a sudden. In 1917, there was once again, like French Revolution, there was a great revolution in Russia also, that is called Russian Revolution. Russian Revolution was the another important chapter which we have to study. Russian Revolution. In between, Germany unification and Italian unification happened in 1870s. Between 1870s and 1917, there was a catastrophic war within Europe. That was World War I. Now, what is the major reason? Now, as we have seen, this balance of power changed after Germany unification. Now, before Germany, England, Spanish, Portuguese, Spain, and Portuguese controlled South American colonies as well. After French Revolution, some of these empires also became independent. Like this also independent in 1820s onwards. This French Revolution affected South American colonies as well. Now American independence, American country. Now South America, many different small kingdoms. Now it's not kingdoms, they are called states now, modern states. European revolutions, different kinds of new nations, Germany, Italy, Belgium, such kind of emerged, new nation states emerged. German people, now they wanted to compete with previous powers. In 1870s, this is India was under British. Spice Islands were under Dutch. Now here British, Dutch, French, they have parceled all these territories among themselves. Germany now unified, now they wanted a share in the colonies. Italy also wanted a share in the colonies. That's why Italy also tried to capture some areas in Africa. Germany also wanted to capture some of the colonies in Africa. There was intense competition among themselves. At the same time, technology was also growing very rapidly. Initially, English were enjoying the supreme naval power. Because of the supremacy in naval power, they could control this oceanic empire. Now technology changed. Germany also started producing an advanced ships. Now the power of British started challenged. Because of all these changes, colony competition for colony and change in technology, Germany wanted more power. Germany and Italy, now they wanted more share in the colonies. This gradually led to a catastrophic war in the form of World War I. One more reason for World War I was like French Revolution affected every part of the Europe. Some part of the Europe was called Austrian Empire. Now empire, the people started questioning the concept of empire itself. They wanted separate nation states. They wanted a separate country for their ethnic people. This another cause resulted in the World War I. So all these factors resulted in a catastrophic war called World War I. Competition for colonies and aspiration for new nations. After World War I, once again Germany was defeated in this. Germany and French, initially during the unification of Germany, French state was defeated. In the First World War, Germany was defeated. Now French wanted to punish Germany. As a result of it, they created a very weak state. This has created uncertainty in European order. Now it rise to a new powerful people like Hitler and Mussolini. Now these people now called fascist people, ultra nationalists. We have to study fascism as well. After 1917, all these fascisms led to World War II. World War II, and now by 1945 World War II ended. Later, new power centers now America and Russia. In 1947, British also became very weak because in 1947 India became independent country. Now gradually Britain also became very weak. Due to World War II, it became weak. Now it had to lose colonies like India, Sri Lanka. Now Dutch people also had to leave their colonies. A kind of decolonization took place. So previously colonization, now after the Second World War, decolonization took place. That's why we have to study colonization and decolonization. After decolonization, a new kind of ideas by this time period emerged in the form of socialism. Socialism was represented by Russia, another idea called capitalism, represented by America. Now they started fighting in a different order, different way, that was called Cold War. It continued till 1990s. In 1990s, the Russia itself got split into different countries. Now the Cold War ended. So we have to see all these aspects in our world history. Enlightenment, American War of Independence, French Revolution, European Revolutions, Italy unification, Germany unification, Russian Revolution, World War I and World War II. World War I, World War II, then rise of fascism, then colonization, decolonization, then finally Cold War. So we have to see all these things in our world history. So with this, we try to segregate what are the important developments in ancient India, what is the different time period, medieval India, before that early medieval India, then modern Indian history, different phases of freedom struggle, and before freedom struggle, how British conquered Indian subcontinent, and world history as well. We have to see we have discussed what are the important developments we have to discuss in world history. So always keep this video with you, and whenever we are discussing a particular topic, you try to see what was happening before that development and what is going to happen after that particular portion of the history. So these are the various aspects which we have to see. Always keep India map also, old map also with you while studying history. It will help you geographical changes also, what is happening in which part of the world, you will be able to understand it. So these are various issues in history chronology. So this is it. Thank you.